Welcome back to Whisper of the Night. Tonight, let me take you to the edge of a cursed sea, where an old fisherman met a golden miracle, or a golden curse. This is not the fairy tale you once knew. This is the story of how guilt feeds the darkness, how love turns to chains, and how the sea doesn't need demons, it only needs those who have lost faith in the good. So, light a candle, hold your breath, and follow me into the spiral of the golden fish. The sea was quiet that morning. Not peaceful, quiet in the way that graveyards are quiet. The waves didn't break, they merely sighed, black and viscous like ink bleeding across an old map. Ivan stood alone at the edge of the shore, his net heavy with silt and silence. The wind had forgotten his name years ago. Life had eroded him into habit. Cast, wait, pull, breathe. The rhythm of a man waiting for nothing. But that morning something shimmered. It thrashed weakly in the net. Not a fish, not really. A flash of gold, radiant yet wrong, like a candle burning in a coffin. The creature was small, glistening, its eyes like droplets of honey with something dark swirling beneath. And then it spoke. Not in the voice of a stranger, but hers. Yelena, his wife, as she once was. Young, kind, before bitterness gnawed her hollow. "Let me go, Ivan," the voice cooed, soft as memory. "I can help you reclaim everything you lost." His hands trembled. Logic cracked under the weight of that voice. The past he had buried now stirred beneath the tide. He let it go. The golden creature vanished into the sea with barely a ripple. But its voice lingered, tangled in the gulls' cries and the groaning tide. And in that moment, Ivan felt it. Not relief, but the slow, cold birth of something else. Guilt. That night, he dreamed of his wife smiling the way she hadn't in years. And in the dream, she asked, "Why didn't you ask for more?" Morning came like a bruise. Purple shadows on the sea. A sullen glow pressing through a sky that didn't care to shine. Ivan sat in silence beside the fireless hearth, his hands still smelling of salt and guilt. Yelena was already awake. Her presence filled the cottage the way smoke filled lungs, heavy, choking, invisible only if you never questioned it. "You came back empty," she said flatly, stirring a pot of grey porridge that no one would finish. "No," Ivan replied, eyes low. "I caught something. A fish. And it spoke." She turned. For a moment, amusement cracked the cold mask of her face. "You're mad. It asked me to let it go." "And you did?" She laughed, sharp as broken glass. "You had magic in your hands and you let it slip back into the sea?" Ivan didn't answer. He was staring at the wall, at the memory lodged in the wood grain, a time when Yelena's laughter wasn't a weapon. "You owe me, old man," she said after a while, voice quiet but coiled. "I could have married a man with coin. You promised me peace. I want that now." She turned, almost playfully. "Go back and ask it for something small, a silver trough, perhaps. For the pigs, you know. Even magic must start modestly." He didn't argue, he never did. That evening, the sea waited like a judge. Ivan stood at the same spot, net in hand, guilt in heart. The golden light broke the surface without a ripple. The fish was there, gleaming, unreadable. But the voice was not Yelena's this time. It was his father's. So the fish rasped in that old familiar bitterness. "You've returned," asking for scraps, just like always. Ivan's breath caught. The voice was dead for decades, yet it scraped open a wound he never named. "You think you deserve happiness?" it asked again, almost kindly now. He didn't answer. The words came out of him like blood through gauze. "My wife wants a silver trough." A moment of stillness. The sea didn't even move. Then, without a word, the fish sank beneath the surface. When Ivan returned, the trough was already there, gleaming, immaculate. It looked foreign in their crooked cottage, like a crown in a beggar's hands. Yelena didn't smile. She touched it once, briefly, as if testing its reality. "Why didn't you ask for more?" she said, already turning away. And in that moment, Ivan understood something vile. He wasn't the man who had bartered with the sea. He was the courier, the messenger, a vessel, and something had stepped inside him the moment he said yes. The silver trough gleamed in the pale light, like a secret trying too hard to be noticed. It stood in their yard, untouched by mud, untouched by time, untouched by reality. But Yelena didn't look at it anymore. She stood at the window with arms crossed, eyes somewhere beyond the fields, beyond the sea, staring into a future no one promised her. "It's not enough," she muttered one morning, though no one had asked. Ivan looked up from his chair, the wood creaking under him like bones that no longer fit. "You wanted silver," he said softly. "And now I see what's possible," she replied. "Do you know how long I've scrubbed this earth with my bare hands? How long I've begged it to give me something more than rot and rain?" She turned, and for a moment her face was almost gentle. "A proper house, one with walls that don't whisper in the wind, a roof that doesn't drip stories on our heads. You can ask for that, can't you?" He didn't answer. His hands were shaking again. That evening, he walked back to the sea. The sky had no stars. The wind had forgotten movement. The waves licked the shore like a creature barely feigning sleep. He waited, and again the gold returned, a beacon in black water. This time the fish didn't glow so warmly. Its eyes were brighter, yes, but the kind of brightness that blinds, not welcomes. It spoke, but not in his father's voice, not in Yelena's, in his own. The voice of a young Ivan, filled with dreams and hunger and defiance. "What are you doing here, old man?" the fish asked, amused. "You were meant for more than this, remember?" Ivan recoiled slightly, his lips trembling. "She wants a house, a real one, with stone walls, a garden. Do you want it?" the fish asked. He hesitated. "I want her to stop looking through me." The fish blinked. Its golden fins twitched in slow, deliberate rhythm. "Done," it said, and it vanished. The next morning the cottage was gone. In its place stood a 2-story manor, white stone, dark wood, windows like eyes that had seen too much. The pigs snorted in disbelief. Even the sky seemed to step back. Yelena walked through the front door without a word. Her fingers brushed the polished frame. She didn't smile. "Where's the garden?" she asked absently. "And the well?" Ivan said nothing. That night she lay on the featherbed with her back to him. Her voice was quiet but not tired. "Do you think the fish could make me queen?" The question landed like a knife on the floor. Not sharp, just unexpected. Ivan stared at the ceiling. There were carvings now. Expensive, intricate, cold. He closed his eyes. And in the dark, he could already hear the waves calling again. Not as invitation, but as inevitability. No, the manor was quiet. Too quiet. Even the walls, though solid, no longer creaked, as if they too had agreed to hold their breath in Yelena's presence. Ivan found himself walking the halls at night, unsure of which door led to which room, as if the house kept shifting to match her ambition. There were paintings now of no one they knew, hanging in gold frames like strangers watching silently. Yelena stood taller these days, not in body, but in weight, as if power had begun to drape itself across her shoulders, settling into her skin like perfume. "I had a dream," she said one morning, slicing into bread she wouldn't eat. "I sat on a throne, people bowed, it felt right." Ivan looked at her, really looked at her, and realized something terrifying. She wasn't happy. She was hungry. "Yelena," he said carefully, "we have enough now, more than enough." She didn't meet his eyes. Enough is a word made by men too tired to reach higher. That evening he walked to the sea again, not out of love, not out of duty, out of fear. The waves had grown louder, not angry, expectant. When the fish appeared, its shape shimmered strangely as if unfinished. Its glow was no longer gold, but something paler, colder. A reflection of light, not light itself. "Again?" it asked, voice soft, too soft. Ivan opened his mouth, but someone else's voice spoke first. Hers. Yelena's. But not as she was now. It was the Yelena from their youth, laughing beneath a birch tree, eyes full of wild belief. "If you loved me," she whispered, "you'd do this for me. You said I was a queen! Did you lie?" Ivan gripped his chest, the voice wrapped around him like a noose made of silk. "Make her a queen," he gasped. The fish didn't answer. It didn't need to. When he returned, the manor was gone. In its place stood a marble palace, veiled in banners, guarded by statues that blinked when you weren't looking. Yelena sat on a throne taller than any man. Her gown glittered like frozen starlight, but her eyes were hollow. Not sad, not angry, just missing. Ivan approached, slowly, like a guest in his own life. She looked at him, not with recognition, but with calculation. "Why am I still empty?" she asked, her voice echoing in the high ceilings. "Why does the crown feel like ash?" Ivan couldn't answer. That night he watched her from afar. She stood by the balcony, staring out at the sea with a gaze that dared the horizon to come closer. He thought about asking the fish to stop, but he already knew. The only thing it ever gave was what you asked for. It had been weeks since Yelena had spoken to Ivan with anything but commands. Her crown had grown heavier, and so had her silence. At night she no longer slept. She paced, whispered to shadows, stared at the mirror as if hoping to see someone else looking back. "I am queen," she would murmur, as if reminding herself. "I have everything. So why do I feel like nothing?" Ivan no longer walked the halls. He lingered near doors, near walls. He listened, and he feared. One morning, Yelena turned to him with eyes that gleamed, not with light, but with need. "Tell it I want to control it," she said. Ivan blinked. "Control what?" "The fish," she said plainly. "It answers wishes. I want it to answer only mine, forever." There was no anger in her voice, no madness, just the dull certainty of someone who no longer knew where her soul had gone, and so clutched the only thing she could still command: power. Ivan didn't argue. That night, the beach was colder than it had ever been, not in temperature, but in presence. The sand felt dead, the wind wrong. The sea was calm. Too calm, then light, not gold, white, blinding, empty. The fish rose slowly, but this time it did not shimmer, it did not smile, it stared. And when it spoke, it did not borrow her voice. It borrowed his, a younger Ivan, full of fire, full of belief. The Ivan who had once dreamed of giving Yelena a world better than the one they'd inherited. "You can end it," the voice said. "She's lost and you're tired. Give her to me and I will set her free, and you. You'll be done with this burden, with guilt, with failure." Ivan fell to his knees. "Will she suffer?" he asked. The fish did not lie. It never did. Only long enough to forget herself. Then she will be light. Ivan did not cry. There were no tears left. He thought of her laughter in the birch woods, her hands once calloused from scrubbing floors, her arms once warm in winter nights. She was already gone. "Do it," he whispered. The waves rose, the light vanished. The sea opened like a mouth, and somewhere far beneath, a scream broke, then ended. Ivan waited. The fish reappeared, this time smiling. "You're free," it said. "Or are you just emptier?" Ivan stood. The wind had died. The sea was still. He did not speak. He did not weep. He simply turned and walked home. And as he passed the broken palace, now silent, now stone, he whispered to no one in particular. It was mercy. But the wind did not answer, and neither did he. The house was quiet when he returned, not just in sound, in soul, the kind of quiet that hummed beneath the skin. Yelena was gone. No crown, no gowns, no echo of footsteps. Only dust and the faint scent of sea salt where her bed used to be. Ivan did not ask questions. He sat, he stared, and for the first time in years he felt nothing at all. Days passed, or maybe weeks. He stopped keeping track. Sometimes he'd walk outside and see villagers peering at the empty palace with curiosity and fear. Once, a girl asked if the queen had died. Ivan shrugged. She was never really here. That night he dreamed of the fish again, but it did not speak. It only floated, eyes glowing with a soft, unbearable gold, and he could feel it, waiting, not for a command, for a collapse. One evening Ivan stood before the sea again. The horizon bled crimson, but the water was still and black. The fish rose without being called. It did not glow. It radiated absence. "You did well," it said. "Do you feel free?" Ivan looked at his hands. They no longer trembled. They no longer clenched. They just were, he said. "Do you feel pain?" it asked. "No." The fish circled slowly, its voice tender. "Then what do you feel?" Ivan blinked. For a moment he searched. For grief, for guilt, for longing. Nothing surfaced. "I think," he began, "I've forgotten how." The fish did not laugh. It simply tilted its head, an echo of human curiosity. "Then you're ready," it whispered. The waves parted, the fish drew closer, and Ivan saw it clearly for the first time. No scales, no gills, just mirrors, countless tiny reflections of faces he used to know. His father's fury, Yelena's hunger, his own terrified eyes. "Do you want to end this?" it asked. "Do you want to stop the cycle of asking, of needing, of failing?" Ivan stepped forward. "Yes," he said. "Then give in. Not to desire, but to emptiness. Not with fear, not with regret, just gravity. The sea accepted him like an old friend, cold but comforting, like finally remembering the name of a dream. And when he opened his eyes beneath the waves, he did not drown. He breathed. The beach was quiet, not peaceful, not warm, just quiet, like the pause before something begins or ends. A body lay sprawled on the wet sand, Ivan, eyes closed, hands open as if offering nothing to no one. Then a breath. Shallow, then steady. He sat up, slowly, no confusion, no pain. He simply rose, as if he had always meant to. His clothes were dry, not a grain of salt touched his skin, but in his right hand something shimmered, a single golden scale, thin as silence, sharp as memory. He stared at it for a long time, then he smiled. But the smile did not reach his eyes. His eyes, they were gold now. Not bright, not divine, just empty. A gold that reflected nothing but itself. A week passed, maybe more. Ivan walked from village to village, his pace unhurried, his words quiet. There was a fish, he'd say, offering the scale. It can give you anything you desire. People laughed, some turned away, but not all. One day, a young fisherman, ragged, hungry, eyes clouded with worry, stopped Ivan by the shore. "Is it true?" the boy asked. "Can it really change things?" Ivan didn't answer right away. He only looked at the sea, where the waves shimmered with something not quite sunlight. Then he turned back. "It changed me," he said, "and I didn't even ask for much." The boy hesitated. Ivan opened his hand. The golden scale pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat beneath glass. "Take it," Ivan whispered. "All it asks for is yours." The boy reached out. Far out at sea, something stirred. Not a creature, a ripple, a pattern. One voice becomes two, two becomes 10, and soon the tide carries more than salt. The fish swims endlessly. It does not hunt, it does not conquer, it only waits. For sorrow, for guilt, for silence. For those who no longer ask why, only what next. On the beach, Ivan watches the horizon. He no longer blinks in the sun. He no longer speaks unless spoken to. But sometimes at night, when the stars hide and the waves retreat, he whispers, "I was just trying to make her happy." No one hears. And maybe that's the point. The sea needs no devils, only those who have forgotten how to believe in kindness.